All right. What's going on, everybody? My name is Michael Hoff, part of the Face Off Sports Network. And today I'm giving you our Week 10 streamers at the kicker position. Just a very quick recap. Last week, we gave you two kickers rostered in less than 30% of leagues that finished inside the top 10. So let's not delay. Let's get right into it. Our first kicker is returning for the second week now. That's Mr. Blake Group of the New Orleans Saints going up against the Atlanta Falcons. His roster percentage now is up to 35, so it's 9% higher from last week's video. I would have liked to put somebody else out there with a little bit lower, but we'll get to those later. But I do like Group again this week. Delivered great last week in week 9. It was his third game with 10-plus points and second in the last 4 weeks. Now the Saints are playing the Falcons. The Falcons are currently allowing 13.78 fantasy points to the kickers on average. That is the second most in the league. Also, very important to note that over the last 3 weeks, the Falcons have allowed 29 points to kickers, which is tied for the 5th most. So kickers facing the Falcons also on average are finishing inside the top 12. That would include 5 weeks in which a kicker facing the Falcons has finished inside the top 10. So Blake Group, yet again, is another slam dunk for me. I'll give you somebody lower if you want something juicy. Last week, I gave you Chad Ryland, who was rostered in 2% of leagues. I decided to go even lower, and we're going with Mr. Riley Patterson of the New York Jets, visiting the Arizona Cardinals. He's only rostered in 1% of leagues, so he's got to be available where you're at. Listen, this pick has so much more to do with the opponent facing the Jets than it does Riley Patterson himself. It's the Cardinals right now have allowed 10-plus points to kickers in 6 of their games this year. More importantly, 4 of those games have come in the last 4 weeks. So the last 4 weeks, they are allowing a lot of points to the kicking position. We remember the Chargers. We saw last week as well. And then over the last 3 weeks, the Cardinals are allowing an average of 3.3 field goal attempts per game. That leads the league by more than half a kick. So that's pretty solid. So to me, those are the plays so far, Blake Group and Mr. Riley Patterson. I'm going to give you one more. And this one's kind of like a heads up because when I was looking through some of the kickers here, I noticed normally if this man was healthy, his roster percentage would not be where it is. That's Mr. Jake Moody of the San Francisco 49ers, currently rostered in 19% of leagues. Now, listen, you can also, if he doesn't play, you can pick up whoever the 49ers kicker is going to be. It'll likely be Carlson at that point because he's still on the roster. But Jake Moody looks like he's going to play. 49ers practice yesterday. He was out there on the field, so it looks like he's good to go. This was always the expectation that it would be after the bye week. So they are going up against the Buccaneers. They're visiting the Buccaneers. The Bucs have allowed 10 or more points to kickers in 5 of their 9 games. The Buccaneers are also 12th in points allowed to the position on the season, and they're allowing the 11th most points to kickers over the last 3 weeks. And now you can also include, I mentioned Jake Moody has returned to practice. The real headline of who's returned to practice for the 49ers is CMC, obviously. So the offense should be humming even more than it usually is this season. And also important to note, when Jake Moody was playing last year with the healthy CMC, he had 5 games of 10 or more points. Last but not least, if you care about this sort of thing, 4 of those 5 games last year where he did have double-digit points came on the road. And the 49ers are on the road this weekend. So those are my plays for this week. I'm going with Blake Group of the Saints, going with Riley Patterson of the Jets, and Mr. Jake Moody of the 49ers. Rostered in only 19% of leagues, so go and get him. He's, everybody else is going to be making waiver wire pickups. You should too. Go get yourself a kicker. That's going to do it, though, for us today. So let's kick away. Let's have a great week. I'll talk to you guys next time. Stay thirsty. Be kind to one another. We'll catch you on the flip side. Cheers.